You have a danger if you, as a manager, have one staff that you can rely on, which means then you're asking yourself, how much do I give to this person before the person says, enough is enough? You're going to lose this potential of the
Usually it
staff.
ends in resignation.
Yes.
Not only that, the teams around them will also feel that, hey, boss wants to give to that person, give lah. I don't do that, right?
For me, it's like you said, the conversation has to take place two places. I want to give something to the employee versus saying, what do you have on your plate? Is I have this. Let me understand what you're working on.
But we also have to realize updating is important because there is work to be done. There is performance to be done, right? So why does your phone get updated? Because there is a performance lag.
What is the one thing that you learned today? Something new. It forces them to go through their day to say, did I take anything back?
Hey everyone, welcome back to A to Z podcast where we turn real talk to real change. And this is part 2 of our podcast with Shereen and Sharol. If you missed the previous episode, you can go watch it first. I'll probably give you more context into what we're talking about in this session. So in the workplace, we've always talked about trying to fit in. And that is one of the major things that comes up, especially when you join a new company, you're new into the workplace. And there's this term called you're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. And that's what most corporations are actually doing. What's your thoughts about that? How do you go about it?
Wow. Yeah. Sometimes it does happen, right, Cheryl? Because it's like you see the potential of the square peg, right? But then you also see what this person can bring to the table, and it's diverse, it's different than what your organization has, right? But sometimes that's where it becomes a catch-22 situation. How do you make this fit into your organization's values, the way you work? You talk about being creative, being out there, technology savvy, but you want to bring that growth in the organization. However, the organization is not in that mode yet, right? So that's where I think what you say is fitting in comes in. And in today's cross-generational workforce, sense of belonging becomes a major point. And I've seen a lot of times where people raise this up. Yeah, I'm part of the team, but actually I don't really feel that I belong to the team. Yeah, I'm okay with it 9 to 5, but actually would I go the extra mile for this? Not really, So there are many ways to take this, actually.
Yeah. I think if you ask different people, they'll give you a different response. If I ask my older boy, how do you fit a square peg in a round hole? He will just look at me and say, don't fit it in. Just look for a square hole to put it into a square hole, because he's ready to move on. To him, it's like, if the organization is not able to give me what I want, or this group is not able to give me what I want, you just go and look.
Thank you very much.
You just move out. And I think that's one of the reasons why I interact with people where, within 10 months, 3 jobs. If you ask my girl, then she will be like, just force it in. You ask my other girl, and she'll be like, okay, you just chip around the square, make it round, and then you will fit it in. So I feel there's really no fixed answer, because they may come from generation Y or Z, but it's really about how they see themselves. It's themselves. How I see myself trying to fit in. And I feel that's really one of the things I find with this generation. It's all about themselves. And whilst, I like what you say that, I sometimes see a lot of potential in them. But if they don't see it, it's very hard to surface it. Because they may look at it as, this is what I want to do.
Yes.
I see it differently. And I feel that sometimes they just need to go through it. They need to go through that process of self-discovery. And I feel at the end of the day, they will do what they feel is right for them. To me, as long as a parent or as a boss, I have been able to speak to them about it, give them the opportunity, because a lot of times they always say opportunity is very much about
right place, right
luck
time,
and being ready.
Yes.
A lot of it has to do with luck and being ready. And if you are not ready to take that opportunity, maybe that was not the time for you. Maybe it could be a different timing. And for me, it's as long as a parent and as a manager, I was a leader, to me, it's never give up on them, never stop developing, never stop allowing them to see their potential.
Mm. Yeah.
And what are some ways that you can actually practically do to help facilitate this, trying to fit in or facilitate them to achieve their full potential?
I feel having conversations is one of it. A lot of times previously, a lot of organizations, when they come to us, they used to come to us to say, we want to have a training on communication. We want to have a training on, feedback. Because you need the communication, you need to have that feedback to be able to facilitate this. But I've also started to see a shift in the last 2 years that, I have a lot of clients that's coming to me not asking about how do we have better communication or how do we give better feedback. But recently I have clients coming to me and asking, do you have a program or are you able to share with our people? And they're looking at 3 keywords. One is how to be authentic. How to be authentic is because you can have communication to a lot of people, but if they don't see how authentic you are, to them it's you're just doing your job as a manager. You're supposed to have this conversation. I don't see it. So I have this is one keyword that's coming. How do we get our people to be more authentic in the conversations that we have? Number 2, how do we get our people to be more present?
Presence, yeah.
More, your presence becomes important. And number 3, how do we get our people to be more empathetic? I may see the potential, but I'm looking at it from my lens. I haven't had a chance to look at it from the other person's lens. And I think that's a struggle that I make as a parent because we always want to do what's right or what's best for our children. But I realize that I tend to look at it from my lens, which is what's right, which I feel what's right for them versus what do they want and what they feel is right for them. And I feel these are 3 important words that we need to have when we start to have these conversations, with me, with my children, because I'm helping, not just really helping them navigate through corporate, but when they come back and, they start to share their frustration. Every day is frustrating. Every day she comes back is, I'm so stressed, this. And, rather than feeding her, I want to be able to be there for her. So this is 3 things that I'm working on right now, being authentic, being present with her, and being empathetic. And really, sometimes I feel it's not about what you say, it's allowing them to speak. And as she talks, they go through that process. And then suddenly she's like, okay, thank you so much. I didn't say a word. She's like, I think I know what to do. And I feel sometimes it's the same with organizations. When I train participants and they come to me and they ask me, how would you have this? I just ask 2 questions. They talk about it. And then suddenly they have that aha moment. And they're like, okay, I didn't even say anything. It's like, okay, I see. I think this is what I missed out. I feel, this is something that...
Yeah, I would like to also add on that sometimes it's quite nice to be able to do that. But frankly, in an organization, I'm chasing you because my boss is chasing me, right? And we are behind targets and I don't even know whether we'll have a job tomorrow if we don't hit these targets, right? And I guess that's where the real challenge for managers come in because there is that human part where I want to be authentic. Yes, I want to hear all your needs and look for development for you and be there for you, right? But hey, I'm stuck in between. I need you to perform, right? I need you to be able to pick up the slack from another colleague who's away, and I want to be empathetic with you, but who's being empathetic to me? If you don't do your job, I'm going to do your job, and I'm the one working late, and my wife's at home, nagging me about working late. So I think that's where the biggest challenge for managers come in, right?
And I feel this is where they talk about, driving performance, harnessing potential. What is it that you're doing will direct the conversation that you have with them.
Yeah.
And I feel you need to have both.
Yes.
You need to have both. That's why they've always asked, do you hire for performance, what they can bring to the table today, or are you going to hire for potential? Ideally, both. Ideally both. But then again, we don't live in an ideal environment. If I had to pick one, I would go with potential. Because a person is able to perform given the right environment, given the right things in place, given the right mindset, they're able to perform. Potential is when I'm able to push myself, I'm able to drive myself, even if it's not the right environment or the right process or the right people, I'm still able to, I'm still able to harness on that potential of mine. But again, it's really subjective. And, I guess a lot of organizations, managers know their people best, so you would know what works for them. It's really about no right or wrong. It's just about having different possibilities. It's about having different ways of doing it. Those days, there's only one way to do it. When I was in corporate, there was only one style, and everybody will emulate the boss's style. That's how that my leadership style came from, based on my leadership. That's how we emulated it, and that's how we role modeled it. Today, I find a lot of youngsters don't really emulate their boss style because they already have their own style. They have their own way of how they do things, and that's how they interact, they talk, and they, and to me, it's like, how do we use both?
I think the balance there between I would say converging, right, and integrating the two, right? On some days we do need performance, right?
Yes.
On the 25th of the month, I cannot be bothered about your potential because I need the targets to come in by the 30th, right? However, after the 30th of the month, let's talk potential. Let's talk about, okay, what was some of the areas you missed out, right? I see that you can actually do this, and what was stopping you from making it happen? So I think that's where like what you say, Cheryl, right? The richness of the conversation doesn't go beyond the task. So managers need to, and leaders need to have more conversations with their teams, looking at the impact of what the potential can bring. It's not just about your one-on-one work reviews, etc. We never have time, enough for everything. But who are the key people in your team that you need to focus on to grow that potential so that the entire team can grow? So, instead of casting the net wide, who are the key people? What is the certain key areas that we need to focus on to bring our team to the next level, to bring you as a manager to the next level?
Okay, I think this is good on an organization level, but like you said, we don't live in an ideal world. And if you look at like what the sentiment is on, realistically, we have a lot of people trying to fit the square peg into a round hole, and we have very commonly burnout, overwork, resentment, and all this. How do you go about, let's say someone's already in that situation and they are stuck, you can't go to your boss. Quitting a job is not an option. You can't just quit every time there's something. How can someone go about if someone's burnt out or feeling that resentment at work?
I guess the self-care becomes important, isn't it? Because you're right, many a times, some of us have the luxury of, if I'm not happy, but not all of us have that.
Yeah.
And, so you're in that environment. You need to continue to be in that environment, and you also need to continue to deliver, and you also need to continue to perform. How do I keep myself sane? And that's where the self-care comes in. How do you, are there some practices that you have that you can start to incorporate in your routine, be it weekends, be it daily, that will help you to, give that balance or to take that pressure or that stress off? We touched a little bit on it during the
But Anna said,
podcast.
About positive affirmations in the morning.
Positive affirmation is one. Building in, I feel, exercise is so important. You don't need to go to the gym, but just building in a little bit of stretch, a little bit of running around and movement does help. A lot of times they always say, we don't have time. It's a rat race right now. You get up at 6 o'clock and, you're back home at 6 p.m. Where do we have time? And I think that's the paradox of time sometimes. If you don't make time today, then it's going to impact what's going to happen in the next 5 to 6 years. So it's important for us to really look at, if this is important, how do I build a little bit of time? And really, it's so easy today, videos, you have all this, I'm not sure, all these exercise videos that you can do. Music, I find music helps for me. I find music helps.
Mm.
My daughter, what she finds helps reads.
Mm.
So she reads a lot of motivational books.
Mm.
She started reading Tuesday with Maury.
Mm.
And she finds it so helpful. I read that book. I was like, oh my goodness, girl.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
read that book like about 30 years ago. And she feels it helps. It gives her that short perspective, a change in how she sees things.
Mm.
And she just reads about a page, and it's a habit she has built in before she sleeps.
Mm.
So she reads one page before she sleeps. There's another one, a Japanese author,
Harukumi.
Harukumi. Yeah, she absolutely loved those books as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
For me, it's burnout doesn't happen overnight, right? So and all these crash and burn cases is never a one-off overnight thing. So I think it goes back to the individual self-awareness. Am I heading in that direction? Where is it going? Do I see myself in danger zone, etc. And to be honest, sometimes you miss these signals, right? You miss these red flags because you're so swung into the conditioning. Okay, my boss is here, my boss is chasing me. I know I need to fulfill the client's needs, etc. If I don't do this, that's the end of the world for me, etc. So that self-awareness to be able to look at, hey, okay, I need a moment to pause and to think about, what am I doing here, right? What is my purpose here? If my purpose here is to be able, there is a bigger purpose for me to do what I'm doing today, then it can either drive me, right? Or it can kill me. So you gotta look at what is the purpose that you are striving for. Yeah. And that sense of purpose is also may not be revealed, or not everyone may have that sense of purpose, right? So I was reading this book on the blue zones, right, of happiness, and not everyone is, you would say, privileged enough or blessed enough to find their purpose.
Yeah.
But you can look at the other, I would say, two P's, right? One, what gives you pride, meaning that sense of achievement. Oh yes, if I am a manager before I'm 30, well, I'm the first manager in my family, so that makes me, very happy to be able to hold this title. Wow, if I can bring my parents for a Europe tour, they've never had that. So what would be that pride, right? And thirdly would be that passion. What drives my passion to do what I do? Sometimes, it's just in the small things. I know many people that just love looking at Excel worksheets, or love doing PowerPoints, or give me an IT problem, I'll be happy to do this today. So what drives their passion? So sometimes may not always be that big fancy word of purpose, but what gives me that sense of achievement? What gives me that sense of passion, right? That makes it fun for me as well.
I think some organizations are already moving in the right direction, not all, but I see that shift, and I feel in the next 5 to 6 years, it will become, a lot of organizations today are no longer, when you look at learning and development, when they look at training staff, the first thing they go to, right? And this is something that's always been done over the last few years, is cognitive training. What skills, what technical programs. I've seen the shift for the last 3 years. Organizations are now saying, let's look at the intrinsic part, the intrinsic part of it. And organizations are now asking for painting. Art. I know of one organization that took some of their people to their one Philharmonic, part of the L&D session. I see that shift, and I feel it's going to be a norm. In the next 5 to 6 years, because this is the part that you want to balance.
Yeah.
I think that is, let's say 5 or 6 years. Say, if someone is stuck now, let's just say, let's help someone who's stuck today.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
let's just set the scenario first. All right. So like, he or she is feeling stuck. All right. And when you say bosses come and ask, do you have more space? And you're expected to say, yes, I do. Please give me more work. How do you manage, as that person, how do you manage this? I mean, you can't really say no to your boss, right? So what can the person do?
I feel, I also feel that's probably, I'm not sure, old-fashioned way of thinking that we can't say no to our bosses. I think today it is okay to be able to actually explain, because we want to be able to manage things. And for me, is if my plate is full, and my boss comes to me and says that I need something additional done, then for me is managing expectation is to be able to also speak up and share. Because if I'm just going to keep everything in and say, yes, I can take it, you're actually trying to fill water into a already full cup. It's going to overflow. And what's going to happen is either the person has an outburst or it's going to impact the quality of the work that I give. So for me, it's being able to also be open enough. And I feel that's where being authentic comes in. Being open enough to say that I do have a lot of things on my plate. I'm not saying no. For me to be able to manage expectation is for me to first understand what is it that you need, what are the deadlines, then start to look at what can I do, which means can I get someone's help to do it? Can I kind of negotiate a little bit on the deadline? I feel this is something that organizations are now encouraging their people. We are encouraging our people to be able to share,
Have that conversation.
And, and I hear a lot of bosses that are also telling me today that, we want our people to be able to speak up, to be able to share. Don't just take instructions. And if you can't cope, if you're uncertain, if you're not sure, tell us. I feel it's probably, to me, it's like,
But I hear where you're coming from, Cheryl, but I think on the flip side also, I see a lot where employees want to say no because they really can't take it anymore already, right? But when they do say no, then the repercussion of it,
You're
right?
not
The
resilient enough.
manager themselves, their own thought process. So I would say before it even comes to this situation, there is already a conditioning that happens behind, right? So I would say it is the responsibility of both parties to be able to navigate this relationship. So why is it that my manager comes to me and say, do I have any more space? One, I could be his reliable factor, right? So I know that you can do the job for me. That's why I'm coming to you because I don't trust anybody else, right? Second is maybe you've never had this conversation where you have always been coping with it. So sometimes we do sabotage our own selves where we always, we don't say when, we can't do it, and we always try to deliver according to that person's timeline. Right. And thirdly is also could be where what is the problem at hand that we are trying to address here, right? So is it a resource issue? Is it a technical issue? Is it something that needs to be done today, tomorrow, etc.? So today, if you are stuck in this situation, reflect a little bit. Hey, what has led me here? What is this authentic conversation, open conversation that I need to have both ways? But managers are also looking at you. If they see that you can still do more, I would be happy because I feel that maybe you want to do more, you want to grow as well, and I'm vying you for that next promotion.
Okay, I think before we answer ask this very important point. So speaking about growth and resilience, people like to throw these words around everywhere. If you don't work enough, your boss say you're not resilient, and we have been, say we are the most self-conscious generation. You're not resilient enough. Last time I can do, why you cannot? You want to grow or not? You want to grow, you work. Right? And then now we're coming with another perspective to say, hey, if it's too much, stop. So what's the balance? I don't know where is the point where I should say no, and where's the point to say, hey, I want that growth.
Yeah. I think one point is that empathy with accountability. Right. So the conversation needs to happen because, yes, both parties want to empathize each other, because if I'm not doing it for my boss, who's doing it for him, and how is my boss going to grow as well?
That's his problem.
Yeah, that's his problem, right? But if he doesn't grow, I don't grow, right? So until that seat is empty, then I can get on that seat, right? So I like to share this also. What are you doing to support your boss? Right? Not just in tasks, but also it's very lonely as a manager and at the top. So they need that support coming from the bottom as well. So what is it that I'm doing to be able to have this empathy both ways, but at the same time we're still accountable for the deadlines, etc. Yeah, so we need to manage deadlines. Not everything may need to look as urgent as it looks like. right?
Right, I agree. Actually, you're right. I feel the ownership or the responsibility lies with both the manager and the staff. You're right. For a manager to go to a person to say, "Do you have anything on your plate?" and the manager keeps going back because this is a very reliable person. The challenge is you have a danger if you, as a manager, have one staff that you can rely on, which means then you're asking yourself, how much do I give to this person before the person says enough is enough? Because I voice it out, I verbalize it. It's not been taken into consideration. It's you're the best person, you're the best staff. I'm going to give it to you. You're going to lose this potential of the
Usually
staff.
it ends in resignation.
Yes.
Not only that, the teams around them will also feel that, hey, boss wants to give to that person, give lah. I don't do that, right? It's a performance bias, right? It comes up.
And yes, you're absolutely right. You will lose this person. And in today's workplace, when you're working with the young people, they can leave without hesitation, without another job in place, because mom and dad is there to support them anyway. So they will leave. So I feel it requires both. And for me, it's like you said, the conversation has to take place two places. I want to give something to employee versus saying, what do you have on your plate? Is I have this. Let me understand what you're working on. Let me see. Now that's when the conversation starts versus what's on your plate. Some don't even ask.
I need this now.
The email gets sent out and it's to you.
And it's like, the whole world.
And then, she will look into it. So, we want to stop asking questions, how much do you have on your plate? What do you have on your plate? I need you to take on this additional work, but we need to expand a little bit on it. And that's when you actually start to have that balance. So, yes.
I think I want to directly answer Elton's question on growth, right? Just a couple of days back, I saw this interesting reel that, we are in a generation where updates are important. So we're constantly updating ourselves, self-development, growth, what am I learning next, etc. But we also have to realize updating is important because there is work to be done. There is performance to be done, right? So why does your phone get updated? Because there is a performance lag, right? So we don't just get caught up on growth and our own updates without looking at where can this update bring us? What is the success? So we need to make that integration point as well. Yeah. So let's learn how to have this self-awareness, self-conscious, but for what? Right?
Which goes back to, what is my contribution? What is my impact? And these are questions that we want people to start to ask today.
And how it brings to their purpose, their pride, their passion, how it relates back to the bigger picture. Sometimes I feel experience can show you how it relates back. Whereas, when you're younger, you may not see what you're doing today will lead you towards the future, because to you, the future is so far away.
Right.
Yeah?
Okay, wow, that's pretty deep. But I think I just want to end on a quick one. What is one question that you probably would ask differently as, I think from yourself, I would just say, as an employer, what is one question that you should be asking differently? And as a parent, to working adults, what is one question that you probably should ask them to help them to think differently? Because usually they have the answers themselves, but it's how we prompt.
What is that one question? Wow, there are many questions.
I'm always asking a lot of questions.
What's the most common one that comes up that you should feel most impactful?
Yeah, I would say, to me, how you open that one-on-one conversation that you can have with your team. Because time is of the essence. We don't have much time, right? So when you and your team are able to sit down and discuss it, that's a golden opportunity. How do you milk that opportunity? And that's when you will say, right, the question becomes important. So I would like to encourage, instead of asking, hey, how are you today? It's like,
have you had
such a waste of 1 minute or 30 seconds.
True.
Yeah. And most of the employees will say, okay lah, boss. All right. And then you're like,
okay.
Anyway, these are the things pending. So maybe a question which could come up would be, what's on your mind? What's keeping you awake at night? Right. So that's where it could spark into, hey, my boss wants to know something different from me. Why? And it can go anyway. Boss, the employee may say, why you ask me that, boss? Then that's where you engage in a deeper conversation versus how are you today?
Oh, okay.
I think one of my two most common questions.
Okay, let's give you two since you have two. I'll give you.
It used to be my most common question when my girl comes back from uni is that how was class today? My daughter comes back from work, it was how was work today? And I realized it really didn't spark any thinking.
Like that,
you just, it's either like that, same old, same new, nothing new. And I started asking a bit of a different questions a few months ago that now when my daughter comes back from uni, it's like, what is the one thing that you learned today? Something new. It forces them to go through their day to say, did I take anything back? And I also asked my daughter, is there something new that you knew? And it can be anything, it doesn't have to be work related. Then she told me, I learned something new about my boss. My boss is like this, like that. We laughed. And I said, okay, because when you have this question, it sparks curiosity, it sparks observation. You are looking for new things to bring in. You no longer have that store blindness. You go in and you just do this and then you walk out of office. The next thing I ask is, what value did you create today? Not necessarily for the organization, but for yourself. What value were you able to create today? And it can be anything. And, so that prompts them to think. So now they come back prepared, or they will text me. We say, if you don't have to ask me, Mom, I'll text you the answer. I'm very tired today, I cannot think. But to me we want to ask questions that spark the thinking. Not going into an automatic response. And I feel that works now. I think they ask the question before I can ask it. They say, wait, before you ask, okay, one thing that I learned new today, or one thing that I had of value today. So these are the two new questions that I started trying out over the last 3 months, fairly recent. From my default, how was class, how is work, how is assignments, what is your CGPA? Very Asian, mom. What is your CGPA? Very Asian, mom.
Eventually they come with new questions.
Yes. They already anticipate the questions, right? With all the ready-made answers.
Correct. True.
All right, thank you so much for coming on to share. I loved it. So I really like the different perspectives that you guys bring. And so if you guys actually learn anything from this, or if you feel like, as usual, anyone who needs to listen to this, share it to them. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And we'll see you guys in the next video.